Hey everybody, welcome back to the channel and welcome to the first episode of Home Mechanic Tool Review. I'm currently at my workshop behind Project LS400. During Project LS400 I've been buying a lot of new tools and I show them in the episodes. Now I want to try a different format and to show you the new tools that I got and to review the tools that I have been using during the last few episodes. So without any further ado, let's get started with episode 1. The tools I want to discuss in this episode are my new Vanpo quarter-inch drive torque wrench, my Parkside welder I've been using in the latest episode of Project LS400, my new PowerPlus Impact, battery impact, and my 12-volt Parkside ratchet. It's a battery ratchet. The first thing I wanted to review is this nice quarter-inch drive torque wrench that friendly folks of Vanpo sent me. It comes in a blow molded case with nice firm clips on the front, and this is molded in, the hinge is molded in. You would expect this to fail very soon, but in my experience these cases and these hinges last a very long time. So let's see what's inside. It comes with a manual, and being a technical writer this warms my heart. It's in 4 languages, so to see, and it includes instructions for storing it. That means you have to unwind it, and that's something I learned from my video. I've been using torque wrenches, I would say all my life, but I often forgot to unwind them when I put them in their box. Over here is an inspection certificate. There is a date on there, and there's a serial number on here too. So that's a unique this is a unique inspection certificate, and it's checked in clockwise direction, very little deviation, so that looks good. Now let's have a peek at the tool itself. One thing I like from the start is that they made this red. Oftentimes when you have tools and ratchets and box wrenches and so, and you use them under the hood of the car, you can easily lose track of them because from the color they blend in with the material. So you're looking for a tool that's hidden in plain sight. Having this red is very nice. It's a knurled grip with a wide band for calibration. The brand and the range is laser engraved. Yeah, everything is laser engraved in here. I like it very much. It's very easy to read. The range is 5 to 25 Newton meters. There's nice fine light clicks. I like that very much. And now I can't rotate the grip. Guess I have to pull this. Yeah, you have to pull this. I like it. And you can see there are the micrometer vernier scale is written on here, and it goes in increments of 0.25 of a Newton meter. So that's very fine. That's super detailed, having such a high accuracy. This kind of tool comes in very handy under the hood, especially when you're working with water pumps and valve covers. You can easily over tighten valve covers. Usually those parts are made out of aluminium and they use steel bolts, and when you over tighten them you run the risk of pinching the gasket, causing them to leak because they crack, or you can strip the aluminum threads inside the cylinder head very easily. And when you're insecure about your working by feel capabilities, this is a tool to have. I'll include the link to the Amazon site and the price in the description. I think I'll use it a lot on my next project. And I really like this way of setting it, and it clicks in place after each increment. Torque is in Newton meters, and that's not in pound feet on the back. And on the back here, not sure if the camera picks this up, the serial number is engraved too. This is a great tool to have, especially when you work on engines and you're, like I said, you're not too sure about your capabilities of working by feel. This is the tool to have. It comes with a 3/8 drive adapter and an extension piece. It's all chrome vanadium. By the looks of it, this is a nice quality tool, especially for its money. And and for me it's an absolute must-have. I'll be using this a lot on Project LS400, and I'll show you my experience with this Vanpo quarter-inch drive torque wrench in the future episodes. Up next is my new battery-powered impact wrench with charger. I bought this last week. I was writing an article on those tools for a car magazine I work for, and I was impressed with the quality, value for money, ergonomics, and the price of this one. I bought this at a local tool store. They're called Zip Shop. I'll include the link in the description too. This one has a breakout torque of 220 Newton meters, and this impact cost me around 65 euros. It comes without a battery, and this is what you get. It's nice, lightweight. Yeah, the sense of quality of this thing is very good. It has a brushless motor, and there are, I'm not sure if the camera will pick this up, there are 3 settings for the torque. It has a breakout torque, like I said, 220 Newton meters, and you can select 1/3, 2/3 or the full breakout torque. You can set it on the base here of the tool. You have to buy the charger and the battery separately. This was one kit, 62.5 euros. This is a 20-volt system. It's a 2 amp hour battery, and it charges within half an hour. It has Samsung cells in there, and there is a readout, you can see, for the state of charge of the battery. Now, I have used this to remove the last wheel from Project LS400, and as you may recall, those things were incredibly tight. I think they tightened them with an air impact, and I put this one on there, and it just buzzes them off. So I've only used it once. I think I'm gonna use it a lot during the upcoming episode of Project LS400, and I'll let you know what my experiences are. But for now, I think this thing is already worth its money for the one wheel that I took off. It works so nice and light. Oh look, there are even LEDs on there too. Didn't even notice that. And let me show you. Oh, it's in its highest torque setting, lowest, mid torque setting, and so on and so forth. So, super stoked to have this. Up next is my Parkside welder, which I bought after seeing some very nice reviews on YouTube. I'll include the link up here. I can only agree with those reviews. This is a superb tool to have in the home shop when you're starting with welding. I used to have a MIG set, which I told I sold a couple of years ago, and having this set, well, it does the same but even better. It's a filled wire system, a flux wire, so it's basically an inverted electrode. The metal is on the outside and the flux material that forms the slag is on the inside. No idea how they do that, but it works. It works great. This thing only has one control, with which you select the thickness of the material that you're welding. The only thing you have to do, let me put this aside, is to change the wire inside, and it's very easily. You just loosen this screw, you pick the spool out. Just make sure that when you replace it, you have some painter's tape at hand, because when you let this loose, it might unspring and you have to rewind the coil, and there's quite a lot of wire on there. I believe it's like 400 meters or so, not sure. I'm gonna blend that in here. But anyway, changing the wire is very easily, and it comes with these tips, these, I'll say, electrode tips that go in the welder gun. When I was welding thinner sheet metal, I used a 0.6 millimeter gauge wire on the lower setting. Like the setting is just choosing the material thickness. The lowest setting is 0.8. That worked really well, but when I welded in the brace in the strut towers of Project LS400, I welded 3 millimeter material to 0.8 millimeter thick material, and I used a setting around the 2 millimeter mark of this, and that worked really well. It's so easy to use, and you get great results after a little bit of practicing. Oh yeah, like I said, there's a tip like a MIG welder, the welding gun. Let me unscrew this. and you can just replace the tip. It has to match the wire thickness. It's super simple and it's so easy to use. What I also like about the system is that these hoses, these lines are very thin and very supple, more than with a mix system, so that gives you so much more room to work. And this tip, this gun itself, is slightly smaller than in a MIG welder, and I found that very useful when you're using in cramped areas like in the trunk and in the wheel well. But I must say, once you're wearing your welding helmet, the welding helmet is the limiting factor. And one of the downsides of this welding method is it sputters a bit more, so you always have to clean your welds. I have some welding spray for that. I use this Motep anti-welding spray, so you can easily remove those spotters, though they don't adhere to the metal. And beside the sputtering it creates a lot of, I would say, a powder-like residue that settles on everything directly near the weld area and also on your welding helmet. I'm gonna show you a little bit of that in the next clip. Okay, let's try a little bit of welding. I have my welder set up. I'm going to try to weld this piece of square tubing to this 3mm thick material. Currently I have 0.9 gauge wire in here, and I'll set it to 2mm because well, use a little bit more, 2.5. See how this goes. See if we have feed. We do. Speed is quite high I noticed, so I'm going to back it down to 2mm. Alrighty. Well, probably isn't my best weld. Let's get the welder out. Now, as you can see, there's a lot of this sand-colored residue. That's what you get with this method. And there's a lot of sputters, as you can see. I'll have to wipe off the slack with a brush wire. This is what it looks like. You can see a little bit of the brown residue. With those thicker materials, you have to wipe a bit harder with your steel brush. But it's a nice weld, I think, given the fact that I welded it. But I really like this welder. It's so easy to work with and you get very nice results. As you can see, there are those little droplets down there. That's what you want to use that welding spray for. So even when you're starting with welding, or if you're an experienced bodywork guy, I can highly recommend this welder. This is a great thing to have in the workshop. For the 129 euros it cost me, I'm super happy to have this. I almost buy a project car that has been on the bottom of the sea, so I have a lot of welding to do. Let's get this out of the way. Last but not least is my electric ratchet. I bought this a couple of months ago and I haven't been using it a lot until recently, where I worked in the trunk area of Project LS400. It's a 12-volt system. It's Parkside. It's the house brand, the store brand of Lidl supermarket, and they're trying to penetrate the market with quality tools for very, very affordable prices. This one cost me 45 euros, and you have to buy the battery and charger separately. I already had a power tool. It's this small angle grinder. It uses the same battery system. On this angle grinder, these batteries don't last that long, 10-15 minutes, and then you have to quit, and it often chokes in the material. This is just a replacement for a hand saw. But on this electric ratchet, the battery lasts very long. I've been working all day long with this thing without needing to recharge or replace the battery, so that's very nice to have. One thing I do not especially like is that you have to depress this clip to get the main clip to move, and as you can see, there are sparks. This isn't a brushless motor, but for its money it's a real good tool, And this is a true time saver. It doesn't have a high torque. I believe it's 52 Newton meters. I'll link the translations in. But for most fastening jobs, this is a very nice thing to have. You see me tighten the brackets in the trunk of Project LS400, and tight is tight enough with this thing. This is a real time saver. I can highly recommend it, and only when I started working in the trunk I noticed that it has a small LED on there to shed some light on the areas where you're working. It was pretty dark in my workshop and in the trunk area, so that's really nice to have. I can highly recommend this. This is a good thing for the do-it-yourself mechanics. Well folks, that's it for the first episode of Home Mechanic Tool Reviews. I hope you liked following me along. The tools I bought new that I showed you in this episode, I'm going to let you know in the future episodes of Project LS400 how they work for me. For now I would like to thank you for watching, and I hope to see you on the next one. Bye!